Welcome back to another episode of Mindful Minute. Today, I really wanted to talk to you all about how to create your own self-care routine. I've kind of been dropping hints here and there in the past few episodes, and also just kind of tossing in some ideas of how you can practice self-care, kind of like a simple thing. But I really think that it's important to set a routine for yourself. I kind of mentioned this towards the beginning of one of the episodes. If you haven't seen any of those, check those out so you can be caught up on today's episode. So, I find that these steps are really important, and they're things that I've actually been working on because I don't think that anybody's self-care routine or self-care journey is perfect. And I know a lot of people think that they're perfect in so many ways, but nobody is perfect. We all have our own flaws. We all have things that, we feel needs improvement. And so I think that having this kind of step-by-step guide can maybe help you all. So the first one I will start with is for you to write down a list of things that bring you joy, things that make you happy, things that I really enjoy this thing, and this really makes me feel a lot better when I'm having a bad day. So write down a list and keep that list going, and just kind of check in with yourself and say okay, how does this thing make me feel, right? So moving on to step 2, after you kind of established a good list and you've got your ideas and you already know okay, I'm good with this and I know where to go now and I know how to start. The next thing I suggest is to figure out how you can start incorporating those ideas into your everyday life. Because even if it's a small thing in the middle of the day while you're busy, that can really help you throughout the rest of the week, throughout the rest of the day, kind of as you kind of go along your own journey and figuring out, your own improvements and things like that and how to build up yourself. So figuring out, okay, I have this list. Let me keep referring back to the list and saying, okay, now I know these things that I love. How do I incorporate those little things or this specific thing into my everyday routine? The next thing is, and I speak about this a lot because I think that it is very important, is to set goals. So, yes, you have your list. You've kind of incorporated it into your life by now. But the next thing, instead of just kind of saying, "Oh yeah, it's good. I've got it. It's fine. I'm doing okay. I feel good." Setting a goal for your self-care routine, your self-care journey, I think is really good. Because once you set that goal, and it could be a small thing. It doesn't have to be a long-term thing. But it could be a small thing going for a walk or, not having your phone with you 24/7. And I know that's a habit I struggle with, but we're working on it over here. Trust me. So setting a goal for yourself, and I mentioned this last week in, I believe it was episode 3, setting that goal for yourself and having that time where you're not around technology even, because especially now in this time with the pandemic, we're always on Zoom, we're always on our laptops, our tablets, our phones, whatever. We're always literally on a screen. We're using a screen, and I think screen time, you can have that, but also at the same time kind of saying to yourself, okay, I really need a break. You're starting to feel fatigued from being on Zoom, which I've heard is actually a real thing. So definitely setting a goal for yourself, saying maybe, okay, after lunch, before I kind of dive back into work, let me go and take a walk, turn off my phone, or, sit down and just kind of without being in a room filled with technology, kind of journal my thoughts and and kind of get those things out, or read my book, or, even if it's like 20 minutes or, an hour or half an hour, whatever it is that you need, I would say that that's a good one. So the next thing, step 4, is I will say for you to, after you kind of, so let's say the first week, you're like, okay, I got a list, check. I've got a few things that I really want to like kind of keep in my tool bag throughout the week and throughout the day as I kind of go along. And then you say, okay, I've set this goal for myself. At the end of the week, when you feel like, okay, I've accomplished something and I feel better and I feel like things are, not as stressful, sit there and reevaluate, and think to yourself like, okay, is this working for me, or is it not working for me? And if it's not working for you, you can always, and this kind of goes into the next step, but you can always kind of like move things around on your list, add to it. It's kind of like, okay, the way I look at it is for my YouTube channel and even for this podcast, but let's start out with my YouTube channel because I've been on there for almost 2 years now. And at first, I didn't really know. I'm like, I really want to put up content. And at first I was kind of just like, whatever, let's just go for it. I can't talk, guys. Let's just go for it and, let's just put up whatever video I feel like putting up. And then I started doing more research and I was like, wait a minute, like, maybe I should kind of build up a schedule for myself. Maybe, because obviously I was like first starting out school really when I started the channel. And so, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, well, once I started doing more research and I started kind of, getting into the content that I wanted to put out, I was like, I need to have a schedule, especially when, while I'm going to school. Like, how am I going to put up a video, and how many times throughout the week do I want to put up a video? And so once I got that kind of squared away, I was like, okay, what's next? So then I kept doing more research, and eventually, I kept finding people saying like, okay, you need to make sure that you write down a list of ideas. And that's kind of how I look at this list thing, because I started writing down a list of ideas and kind of keeping them, on the back burner and saying like, okay, I can always refer back to this thing, or, whatever. Now that it's 2021 and I'm up to like 236 subscribers, my content, and I'm sure, people on my channel can probably say this too, my content has changed drastically from when I first started. Because I just kind of used to sit down and talk about whatever. And then the more that I was like, okay, what is important to me? What do I feel passionate about? Or, what are the things that I really find important and that need to be discussed? And the more that I did that, the more that I, kind of made a list of things, the list just kept growing and changing and growing. And I have like a list where, I kind of collaborate with a family friend of mine, because he helps me a lot to film my videos. And so that list, we started out with like 10 ideas. I think we have like 40 or 50 now, because I'm just like always adding to it. And, it's the things that I find that I need more help filming, because I do a lot of my own filming, a lot of my own editing. And so I do all the filming whenever it's just me, and I also do all of my editing. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this, because having a list, I find, kind of really does help you, and just like for me with my YouTube channel, having that list of ideas that's constantly growing and changing, that's how I kind of view this, as like you can reevaluate and kind of think about, okay, is this thing working for me? Does this really help me? And if it's not helping you, sit down again and say to yourself, what else do I really like? You know, I can say for sure that this pandemic, when it first started, I was like, obviously like everyone else, I was just like, okay, I'm really starting to go crazy and I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm just like here, you know. But then I kind of started to do my research again. And research really does help you a lot. And so, I started doing more research. I got involved with this, how do I explain it? So this woman who has a magazine and a blog site. And so, you know, I started connecting with her and with other blind individuals who are content creators. And I really developed some like really good connections through Twitter, through, you know, being a feature on the magazine. And so those things kind of helped me to push myself forward throughout this pandemic, because I really started to see like the things that I was passionate about. And I started writing down lists again of like, oh, this is a good thing to try. Or, you know, and then even so, with the pandemic being, you know, I don't even know, it's been, a year now? That it's happened, that it's been going on. It's like, I started to kind of, I was more consistent than ever with my YouTube channel. And so that's why I'm really telling you guys that it's important to keep that list going. Think about the things that really do bring you joy. And, you know, I found out a lot of these things from just thinking about it, and also just from doing research and, you know, seeing what other people suggested. And so I kind of followed those steps, and I really wanted to share some of those with you. And yeah, so just think about, you know, start out with step 1 and then kind of go up from there. All right, you guys, I will see you next time. Thank you.